If you want to get the current date and time, you can use datetime.datetime.now. So from datetime, import datetime, and then we'll create a datetime object called T3, and we'll set that equal to .now. It's going to get the current time, and it's going to assign it to T3. So when we print T3.time, that is our current time. T3.date, that's our current date. And then print T3.hour, T3.minute. You can get any of the attributes that you want out of this T3 object. It has all of the date time attributes. See, here we got hour and minute, 10, 2. If you want to get different attributes out of it and print in whatever format you want, you can also do that. But keep in mind, these are integers, so we need to convert them to a string format, and then we can add together different chunks of data to structure a string in whatever format we like. And then you can use datetime.strftime, that's kind of hairy, string format time, to get names of months and weekdays. So you may want January, February, or Sun, Feb, those kinds of things. You can get those pretty easily using the strftime function. So from datetime, import datetime. We're using the same class here. And then we'll create a T3 object for now. And then we can print T3.strftime %A. With an uppercase A, what that gives us is the day of the week, Sunday. And then if we use a lowercase a or an uppercase A, we get just a sun or the whole thing, Sunday. If we use a lowercase b, we get Feb for month. If we use an uppercase B, we get the whole word, February. If we use a lowercase x, we get this format of the date. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff that you can get. strftime has a whole, probably 25, 30 different formats of date and time that you can grab from the datetime object. So you can look in the docs to get more detail on that. These are some of the most important ones, I think. So a time delta, like I said before, is a duration of time, or the difference between two dates or times, or elapsed time. So it's good for timers, that kind of thing. It's good for subtraction and addition of time or date objects. Datetime.timeDelta, it's a subclass of datetime, and it has attributes days, seconds, and microseconds. It actually doesn't have minutes. You can get minutes out of it, but it stores, the time delta object only stores days, seconds, and microseconds. And it can also be multiplied or divided by an integer or a float. So let's take a look at this. From datetime, import time delta. We're also going to import date and time, so we can create date objects. So we have a date object D1 and a date object D2. And if we do a subtraction, this is basically going to be a time delta object, is what we get as a result of this subtraction. We subtract two date objects, we get a time delta object, which means a duration of time as a result. So print TD and type of TD, and you can see here we get 461 days, and the class is a datetime.timeDelta object. We started with two date objects, we did a subtraction, and our result was a time delta object. And then if we print td.totalSeconds, we can easily convert that into seconds. That's a time delta function. You can get total seconds from a time delta object. Or you can also multiply, like I said, you can multiply a time delta object by an integer or by a floating point. And here we've multiplied it by 3 to get 1383 days. And if you want to find out number of days to an event, that's also pretty easy using time delta. So from datetime, import datetime, today equals datetime.today.date. And then my event is on this date. So I want to figure out how long until that event. Well, that's pretty easy. Days to event is equal to my event minus today. Or maybe it's today minus my event. Well, let's just take the absolute value, then we don't have to guess. And then we can print days to event dot days, tells us how many days to the event. So it's 1008 days to the event. Now timestamps. Timestamps are used in log files, but they're also used heavily in Unix and Linux. And this is also called time since the epoch, which is January 1, 1970. And we can get that using the time function within the time class. This is not a subclass of the date time class that we've been talking about. This is a separate time class that has a time function in it to get the timestamp. So we use datetime from timestamp to pass in a timestamp object, and then we can get a datetime object from that. So this is a function of the datetime class. So we can convert back and forth between a timestamp and a datetime. So let's take a look at how that works. Let's import time. This is, again, a separate time class, not a subclass of the datetime class. We can get a timestamp that is equal to time.time with parentheses. So this is a function within the time class. And a timestamp is basically seconds since the epoch with microsecond accuracy. So a timestamp since January 1, 1970 in seconds. And you can easily convert that to computer time just by using this time.ctime and passing in a timestamp object, and you can see that it converts it to computer time, or whatever format your computer is set up to like. Now another thing we can do is convert a timestamp to a datetime object and then print that out as a datetime object. Let's set now equal to datetime.fromTimestamp. That converts the timestamp into a datetime object that is now. And then we can print now, and we can see that we get basically the current time and date. And then if we want to print it out now in the timestamp format, we can print out datetime.timestamp of now. That converts our datetime object back to a timestamp. This makes it really easy to convert back and forth. Now you could use time.time to time processes on your computer, how long a program takes to run, or speed of an algorithm, or whatever, elapsed time. However, Python recommends you use time.processTime for that. So if you set start time equals to time.processTime, and then you run your algorithm or your program or whatever, and then end time equals time.processTime. And then you can print operation executed in how much time it took to execute. Since I didn't do anything, it's 0.0, but you can get microsecond accuracy of how long it takes for a program or an operation to execute in Python using this format. That concludes this video on using dates, times, and timestamps in Python. I hope this was helpful for you, so please click the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I'm Joe James. Thanks for watching.